Come on, man, you know you wanna get that down.
I do.
I can just see you getting ready. It's nice,
All right, call the council meeting to order, please stand for this.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Hewitt. Here. Dickey. Here. Garner. Here. Wenzel. Here. Hoover. Here. Chanel.
Here.
Powell.
Here.
Just to let everybody know, you may see a new item on the bottom called work session marijuana ordinances. This is where we're going to be doing our marijuana ordinance work stuff. We put it at the end so we can get through our regular business first, and then anybody that wants to leave can. And basically what we'll do is we'll reserve all public comments till the beginning of that session so that we can get the voices in right before we discuss these items. And I've asked all of council to send in any of their recommendations. It'll contain a general area of concern, description of their shortcoming that they see, a description of a proposed change, at least at a high level. We don't need it spelled out, in ordinance language yet. Those should be in by the end of May. I'm going to put them together in a master list, group them by like concern, so anybody that puts in the same thing will get put together to present them, and then we'll break them up in little groups so we're not doing it all at once. And then the process we'll use during that work session, whoever sponsors it will come up. Well, I mean, you don't have to go up, you can sit here. Do a presentation, basically explain what the problem is, proposal to fix it, and then we're going to vote on it. If we vote on it and it succeeds, it'll go to the next step, being, I'll come back to that. If it doesn't succeed, then it dies. The approved change will go to both the Finance and Admin Committee. That will be to determine any financial impact to the village. And it will also go to Planning to make sure it meets our master plan, etc. Those recommendations, if any, will come back to us. We'll discuss the language changes and then determine if it's going to be included, send it off to the attorney to draft the ordinance change language, and then it will go into our normal ordinance change methodology, which is a public hearing and then voting on it. And we will break them up in a little bit, so it's not all at once. Most likely it'll be, I know Keith has one that we're going to use for an example tonight, and then obviously odor control we need to get around. So we'll probably lump those together along with any other outstanding things. Or those will be separate. I mean, odor will probably be its own category. That should be it. And I would like to remind everybody we will be having the open discussion right before we talk about those as a council. We'll listen to you, you listen to us. Let's not fight. Golden rule applies. And that is all I have. At this time, I'll need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion has been made and supported to approve the agenda. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public statement regarding current agenda items only.
I'm just curious, on the comments you made, are you going to consider the information that the Citizen Committee gave you last year?
If any of the board members would like to sponsor that, they may. And I've put it out there for them to do so. Anybody else? Okay. Consent agenda. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Motion has been made and supported to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business, none. Moving into items for action. Permit to use 100 blocks off Chapman for the farmer's market. Do we have anybody here for the farmer's market? Oh.
Yes, and it's actually Saturday, July 16th through October 8th, and it's from 9 to 1:30 p.m.
Is that your actual time, or do you want time to set up?
No, that is what's set up.
Okay.
Yeah, 9 to 1:30 is what's set up, because the market's from 10 to 1.
Okay, I'll make a motion to grant permission to use the 100 block of South Chapman for the 2022 Farmers Market. Saturday, this July 16th through October 8th, 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m.
But I also need, we were wondering if we could have permission to leave the Broad Street Events trailer parked like parallel right on Chapman Street. Those parking spaces like on the other side of Greenfelder's where their fence is.
Oh, the public ones? Yeah,
Mhm.
that's fine.
Is that fine to leave it there? Because we only have 2 people that can move it and it's a good advertisement to
Yep.
leave it up there. So that'll be okay to leave it?
Yeah, there's no snow, I don't think you're gonna
Okay.
have a problem.
Well, let's hope not.
Add that.
No, I think that's okay. Motion's been made and supported. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. How many years has that been now?
I think it's been like 7.
Yeah, getting up there. All right, thank you.
You're
Request to reserve Showboat Park on Sunday, October 2nd, for triathlon event.
You want me to stand up?
No, well, I'll just let everybody know, this is the same time they're doing the baseball tournament, but I believe Tom Titoff and the Chamber have worked it out. They're gonna share people, volunteers, everything. How many people are you expecting?
150 max.
150
And
max.
we're there, I believe they're starting at 8 a.m. and they have, started the time where the race will start from Showboat at 9 a.m. sharp.
It's gonna be interesting.
125 teams times. How many girls are on a team? Parents,
We may have to
grandparents,
see if we can get
friends,
people to
support.
Yeah, but they won't all be there at 9 a.m.
No.
They'll be done by 9:30, or 8:30, excuse me, from what they have told
The
us.
softball team?
Yes, they'll be down there and ready to go and out of our way,
Oh.
apparently, but they told us by 8:30.
But the parking is so, and so are you saying that the baseball, they're thinking of using
Only the
parking lot and busing them down?
No, I'm saying we should see if that's an option. Because if there's gonna be that many people, they could park at the school, maybe have a bus run. But that's something I'll figure out when it gets a little closer.
Where does your event end, Stephanie?
Showboat.
With the baseball, they should be all parked in back.
They're parked in back, we're up top.
No,
That's what the only thing that will be down there is the kayaking. Or the little kayak that has.
Oh, yeah, right. Any questions?
I think if both groups think that they can make it work, I will motion to allow the request to reserve Showboat Park on Sunday, October 2nd for the triathlon event for the Chamber of Commerce.
Do you have support? Support. Motion's been made and supported to approve the reservation for the Chamber of Commerce. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'll need a motion, and this is, just so everybody knows, next cancel July 5th. Usually when we have a meeting very close to the holiday, we cancel it because nobody's here. So, I do need a motion.
I'll make a motion to cancel the July 5th regularly scheduled meeting.
Motion's been made and supported to cancel the July 5th regularly scheduled meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Committee report. Committee reports, infrastructure.
We had 2 meetings the last couple of weeks on roads and things that's happening in the infrastructure, and then, we had a meeting on, mowing grass down in the park, what areas to do, and so we came to a compromise on that.
Okay. Is that all?
That's all.
Finance and admin?
There was a meeting.
There was a meeting.
There was a meeting. And, I was outnumbered, who has to be thrown under the bus. But,
Pretty sure you're the chairman.
there were multiple things discussed, some of which I don't think we need to talk about because they fall under presenting as a part of that thing. But the main thing that was discussed, it was brought up about extending the moratorium for a year. I won't hide the fact I was adamant against that. I wanted to find a different way. So the discussion ensued, and we were going to word it this different way, as in saying no new licenses, because we figured nobody's going to be looking for licenses anyhow from through the summer to the end of the year. The outdoor growers were the only ones possibly looking for a license, and they wouldn't be looking for that until January, February. The spring to figure out if they were going to add or not. We weren't concerned about High Life because it's indoor and that's self-contained. And after further discussion, you and James, it was thought to be a little more problematic to say freeze of licenses. As an example that was brought up was, if we say no new licenses, we would have to be specific. So hypothetically, if somebody wanted to come and create another transportation, that's another license. So I think that was what you and James talked about. And yes, I was sitting here because I was waiting to do a ride along with the chief of police. So it was decided that it would be less problematic to just say extend the moratorium to the end of December to allow for time.
That wasn't our decision.
Right.
That wasn't what you, Kim, and I talked about.
Right, it wasn't, but again, wording would be problematic. Because it would have to be specific, and it was discussed that they would probably have, part of the ordinance would have to be changed. And that's what they discussed.
To be honest, I feel like we're being overrode. I mean, we're supposed to gather as a committee and make decisions, and I feel like we're being told, nope, you can't make those decisions.
Well, I'm hearing different stuff. Was it an ordinance change you guys wanted to make, or was it?
Yes.
Because if we're doing an ordinance change, we need to go through a regular.
We wanted to put a cap on it.
That's what
There was discussion over a cap. There
Yes, I
was.
had that written.
There was discussion over allowing so much time available to the current grows to gather how many future licenses they suspected that they may need, and they would have a deadline to purchase those licenses, and then we would apply language that prevented them from purchasing any future licenses until we chose to review either after 1 year, after 2 years, whatever we decided as a council to review the current ordinances that we have in place.
But that's
Am I
an
accurate,
ordinance
Ken?
change,
Is
right?
that what you gathered?
That's what you guys were proposing as an ordinance change.
We were just proposing a cap on allowing future businesses to come in. Not necessarily an ordinance change.
So similar to our moratorium, but not a moratorium.
No, because I'm tired of the moratorium. All it's
Right.
doing is kicking the can.
Right.
And I feel like another 6-month moratorium is just doing this. I would prefer a 3 or 4 month. I think 6 is stretching. I think that allows us to have too much time to just continue to kick the can. So I'm not in favor of the 6 month either.
Once we hit, say, 100 licenses, that would be, that would.
I think that we would have to work the semantics out of that. I think that it would be a discussion between current property availability for the current growers that are out there and how many more licenses they think that they can apply to the personal property that they own. And maybe go from there. Transportation, I feel, is a little bit different. I feel like there could be different language for transportation because transportation, there is only 2 transports in town. They don't necessarily house plants. They move it from one place to another. They take it from one facility to another facility. We can break it down to provide language that no, we're not approving any more licenses in this arena, but possibly in this arena.
Are you talking like long-term or short-term?
I think we discussed the possibility, the cap, you mean?
Yes.
The cap would be until we revisit it in a year, I think we discussed. We thought that revisiting where we were at once every year keeps everything in perspective. It keeps us familiar with what's going on within our grows. Yeah, and we know what's going on. We're not just handing out licenses left and right saying that this is it. It forces us to focus on something without kicking the can down the road with a moratorium after moratorium after moratorium. But it still leaves I'm sorry, Kim. It still keeps it open enough to where if by some oddball opportunity comes in and something happens to a major property in town and we lose a business and there's an opportunity that presents itself to put a business in that place, then maybe we would have that option to do that. But yeah, I mean,
moratorium or anything we want. Right.
I still like the moratorium. It's not.
Well, I think the
something-
moratorium is bad too, but unfortunately, if we're gonna change wording, we only have a month left.
But what's equally as
That's the only
frustrating
thing.
as.
I agree with you, but I don't think we need 6
No, I
months
don't
to
think we
change
need
the
6
wording.
months
I
either.
think 3 months, if we feel like we're not in a place at 3 months, maybe we can add another month there. But I'm not willing to just say 6 months, we're
No,
done.
I don't.
But what's equally frustrating is we were advised that there are legalities that we could be a moratorium again.
Right.
There was that,
We
yes.
don't want to put the village at risk of that, but to then turn around and be advised what we worked hours on that night
Yes.
to come to some agreement with, and the three of us are,
We were very comfortable with our agreement. I think that
I'm
it did a
fine with the
wonderful job.
recess.
and it didn't take, it took a good amount of time for us to come to that. And it was time well spent, it was work well spent. I think we all came in here with our heels all dug in a little bit, and it was some very positive collaboration amongst this committee that hasn't been there since I've been on this council.
We haven't
And
met
then
yet.
to put forth our suggestion to work around the moratorium only to be answered with who should extend the moratorium kind of made me throw my hands a little bit. I want to know what I was doing here for 3.5 hours.
I agree with you, Kim.
And so if the legalities, whether it's 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, if the issue is it puts the village at risk of legalities, then we need to move forward with what we're proposing, which
Much
isn't
quicker.
necessarily an ordinance change.
Well, if it's not an ordinance change, that's one thing. Then the way it was, I had heard it, I think James put it out, it was an ordinance. If we're not looking to change the ordinance, you can make the motion now, and we can vote on it. If there's a binding ordinance change, then it's go for our regular.
I was gonna say, I think if you're talking about putting a cap on that, does have to be an ordinance.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
And we have to, we have to at least put it in the paper, have a month for people to see it, have another meeting with the public hearing. So, not trying to hurting, but I think probably,
We
just
were
to get that done, would have to extend at least a month.
We were under the impression at the meeting that there was plenty of time to make these changes happen, and we could present it at the July 7th meeting. We very in depth about this. There was a lot of conversation around
I
this.
was
I would agree with
adamant about coming back
Yes.
to this meeting tonight when it's put forth. That these were the dates that were going to happen.
June 7th, right? Did I say July?
Right.
June
We
7th.
have meeting Thursday.
And so now here we are, right back to where we were before.
Right, I don't feel like we, in my opinion, I feel like we gained nothing by that meeting, because we basically got our hands slapped and we're told.
Are you guys ready to present that tonight?
No, because we were basically told we couldn't.
We were told we could not.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's where we sit.
It was, we could be open and honest about what we discussed.
Yes, yes, and that was our plan. We didn't have plans to come and present anything to the council tonight, but we did ask if we were able to share what we had came to a conclusion with, and we were told yes. And that there would be plenty of time from this meeting going forward to the end of June to put these things into place, and to get it to our lawyer to make sure everything was sufficient.
And it was a meeting that started out honestly full of bias and full of all this, honestly, myself included, with heels dug in, and by the end of it, walking out thinking that was some of the best work we've done in 2 years. And now here I am in front of these fine constituents going, we have nothing to give you or show you or present to you, and so we're right back to lacking the credibility that we, the three of us, spent hours that night. Nobody says he's right.
So even though that feedback is try to extend it 6 months. We should find a number, but we need to meet again here in May before June 7th. We gotta make sure it's not something that's changing the word.
Right.
gotta find that, because we gotta change the ordinance, that's gonna take extra time.
Or then planning commission needs to give their proof and
And that's,
get it to them so that they can, so that we can start getting some things done.
I don't want Ken running, 12,000 miles. Right. Which doesn't happen. You should watch. Whatever you need.
What do we wanna make this? I mean, are you guys ready? Like, not tonight, obviously, but if we had it set up for next meeting, are you ready to present it?
Is planning commission ready to take action and meet in public?
We can make that happen. If you guys wanna put it, well, we can actually vote on it now. If you guys wanna get the language ready to send it in. We don't need full extent, we need a good idea.
Right. And they prefer a cat number. Over 3.
What is the number?
Daniel said.
Go write that down, Jake, 'cause you're
I can't wait.
That was an absolute lie.
I don't think she writes anything I say, just to be safe.
Proposing minimum cap on the number of,
A cap with an annual review.
with an annual review of
Right.
licenses
So, like,
across the board, right?
Indoor or
Right.
outdoor.
Are you gonna specify the difference, or are we?
Includes all.
so it's like looking at anybody else's ordinance, I was looking for ordinance based on what? Basically, or something. It was like, they were all in, except for the smoking, 25, even, transportation license, 25, which seemed ridiculous, right? There were communities that did that, so, I mean, we just need to figure out how many we have
We need to figure out how many we have,
and
we
find a,
well, I think it's only fair to figure out how many these facilities can even still house. And then we need to come up to a happy medium with
Right.
that. You know, I don't feel like we can dump this on all of these people that have invested and say, sorry, I know that you were able to get 15 licenses, but you can't afford all 15 right now, so you're gonna be stuck with 2 after you invested all of this money. However, I think if we give these facilities enough time through language to try to set up what their following year is going to look like, we can give them enough time to get in the request for the remainder of the licenses that they feel like they need for the following year. And I don't see why we can't redo that on
whether
a
they
yearly
ask or not.
basis. Well, right, whether they ask or not, but I think that they need the availability to ask because many of them started very small and are growing every year. And we can't just cut them off at the knees. I mean, but I think that after that point, they're no longer allowed to apply for any more for that year. And then we can renew it the following year. But I think there needs to be criteria put in place that they have to meet. And if they've met the criteria that would allow them 1 or 2 more licenses as they grow, then we can do that. But they're also at the final process will be a cap on how many licenses we issue, period, across the board throughout town. I know it sounds very wordy, but
No, I think
it's quite simple, I think, you know.
And what time frame would we review them? Maybe end of the year, December-ish, November-ish?
I think we talked about that this was actually a good time of year to do that because of their growth cycles, right?
I'm
Right.
not sure when would be a great time. I feel like, honestly, they would probably need an idea of what their yield is going to be at the end of their growing season, which is typically the beginning of October. They're going to have to dry, they're going to have to figure it out. And let's be realistic about who's busy when. I think the winter months are probably the best time to review because people are less busy, the facilities are not growing, so all of their employees are not tied up in that. Yeah, the outside ones, you know. So I think
We talked too that it also gives us a chance as we're reviewing and fine tuning the other ordinances, that as we're reviewing licensing, that we can look at ordinance violations
Yep.
and how that may affect future license or no future license.
I'm glad you brought that up.
yeah, I agree. You know, if they're not complying with things that they've been asked to comply about, then sorry, you guys don't qualify for any you have another year to remedy the problems that we're asking you to remedy.
In a couple weeks, there's going to be a lot of angry people.
So do we have?
We've dealt with a lot of angry people for 4 years I've been on the council.
This is going to be really, this is going to be really bad.
Can we have counts by next meeting? Like, how many licenses, can somebody reach out, have Tom reach out to them, get that count on what they've got now versus what the cap should be, or are we
I
ready?
know he's not here, but I believe Mr. Whitman has those numbers,
Yeah.
does he not?
Should.
Don't quote me on that one.
He should at least have them on it. He knows the license numbers that we have out there.
Right.
That would be a capital A, I'm assuming that he has those numbers, but.
He should.
My
Tom
hope,
should have them too.
my hope over that was that we would allow so many months for them to finalize how many future licenses they got based on what their growth and yield would be this year. Because it's gonna obviously determine how much cash they have coming in and what else they can put in the ground next year, or employees that they can hire, or product that they need, or space that they need, or any development that they have to do. So I don't know if we could get a number that soon, because I think that they would need to, I think that they need to harvest before they themselves could come up with what a future number for next year's growth would be.
And it may also impact based on what other changes we make may change our minds.
Right. But there would be.
But that's why we put a yearly review.
Right.
I mean, we could severely underguess what they need, but
We could.
to at least put something into place and be responsive to things right now, and then we can review it at a time, but I like that it gives them a chance to look at their business.
Yeah,
and grow their business.
you know.
Like you said, we don't wanna come off of the knees, but at the same time, I want them to demonstrate their commitment to the town.
Absolutely, and so by giving them a deadline of this, I'm just gonna throw a number out there, January 12th. This is the day that you need to decide how many more licenses you're going to need, and then you have this many days after the 12th in order to apply for those licenses for next year. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was my
Streamlining our
thought.
license, and I believe that's in the stack of ideas that we should do.
Next year, we're going to put this thing on the drawing.
Right.
Figuring out what you're going to do.
So in the interim, since our moratorium is going to expire, how are we going to address that?
Can we get this done by the dates that we originally discussed? Because then the moratorium doesn't come into effect. It expires and we move along, and then we get this ordinance work done that's now on
I
the
think
agenda.
we can.
We have
If
until
you
the
can-
30th.
It's not moving.
Well, if we can get the numbers, we can move it. But I think, are you guys proposing an ordinance to codify this, or is it just a motion?
Good question. So, does this have to go back to planning commission before,
Doesn't necessarily have to.
okay, so can we set the time for a public hearing? Because what we need, 30 days before a public hearing?
If we're not doing this as a codified item, then we don't have to. If it's just a motion to say we're doing this for now, then we're okay. If we're not gonna put it in ordinance, then if we don't put it in ordinance, we can vote on it right now. If it goes in an ordinance, we gotta do the regular process.
And that's what I
I do question the language on this, and I do think that we need to probably ask an attorney to make sure that it's not something we need to make sure we don't have to have a public hearing.
We're just explaining to you what we discussed during our.
I just question whether or not we can do this without having a public hearing, and I know we have to have at least 30 days for a public hearing. I'm not sure if we can all get done
And,
in that
and
timeframe.
if that's the case, then
Right.
that's the case. However, we still are sharing with you what
Yes.
resolution we came to in our meeting, and then now the legwork needs to begin, and we need to find out legality-wise what we have going forward and whether or not we can accomplish this by the end of June. And if we cannot, then we may have to extend a moratorium until we can get this, extend a moratorium based on the fact that our final language is going to be this.
Right.
And then once the moratorium is off, this is what's being presented to council to vote on.
There's also the option of not renewing the moratorium if someone approaches us saying, we are in the middle of a review. You are welcome to apply for a special use permit, but you will probably be told no. So we don't have to say yes to all of them that come across, but we can get this ball rolling.
We can strongly suggest that they wait till
Wait.
we're done.
Yes,
Well,
correct.
in the very end, we get the numbers here in the next week and a half, we get into planning commission, they can tell us what this, that, if we do that. The June 7th meeting, we get that in there. If we have to go the 30 days, we could just have the moratorium one more month. It gets us through July.
Sure.
To get to the meeting, second meeting in July, in which we have the public, and then we decide right there.
Yeah.
At the very least, the very worst.
I'm okay with extended
The moratorium
moratoriums
would be
as long
1
as
month.
we're putting work in with an end resolution. Like the moratorium is put on because we do not have this language final and ready to come in front of council.
Right.
So that
Yeah.
July meeting is actually the 19th.
Is that the second one?
Yes, because we're not having that.
Right.
But if we put out the notice now that there will be a public hearing on that date,
On the 19th.
on the 19th, that'll give us enough time.
If we have to have it. We should find it. But,
Tomorrow, it's a 30-day notice, correct?
We're talking about July 9th.
Oh,
July
July
9th.
9th.
Sorry, that's too much.
That's true.
But we got plenty of time.
we're good, Tim.
so bad for people.
Well, let's follow the process, even though it's not in the marijuana time. But does somebody want to put this to a vote to make this move forward?
Under what parameters again? Walk me through them.
So this, if we vote and accept it, this will go, then we'll set it up to go to planning. Finance and admin's already met, which financial impact will be zero because it's the same license we have now. So that beats that. So it'll go to planning and, planning commission if they need, if not, perhaps we'll skip it. But then it'll come back for, no, they will meet this month. We actually have 2 months, we can do it.
We're not meeting in May, but
So you can do it in June.
yes.
Yeah, so, there you go. And we'll probably have another one
We can
for
still,
the.
we have to have a public hearing, still listen.
Double check, so we
Yeah.
have our ducks in a row.
We just need to come up with a number in the next couple weeks.
Yep. Before the planning commission meeting.
Right.
And I'm sure we have the number of what's existing, we just have to think about how much else to allow for the cap.
Right. By end of June. I mean, that's quite a bit of time.
And at the very worst, 1 more month of moratorium. Because like I said, in our meeting, we did a moratorium since last February. When we were in Zoom meetings, and we were probably under one before that, or a couple months before that. And the moratorium just goes on and on and on and on. And that, from the public's view, in my opinion, would be like, you guys keep doing this as the loophole, so you don't have to do anything.
Right.
All right, and it needs to go away.
That's why we all came to that agreement last week.
But let's be honest, the moratorium was in place because we weren't doing anything with the ordinance reviews. So now that you've put forth and charged us with that.
Plus, most of last year, we couldn't go to anybody, talk to anybody, see anybody.
Right.
It was just a year out.
Yeah. When did we start?
For a
Zoom meetings?
significant amount of
All
time.
the way to August. August last year was the first time we met in person.
Well, and even after that, though, there was recommendations of,
Right, to do it again under stuff that was happening, so.
well, and you still weren't able to freely go wherever you wanted to go.
That kind of created an issue.
So planning commission, public hearing for July.
Well, the planning commission would meet in June. So we'll need to have the numbers for them by June. And then they'll send the stuff back. We'll have the public meeting in July. But in the interim, we can have the attorney working on the language. And it may not get done, like we may have it ready to go, have the public hearing and say, yes, we're gonna do this. Then we may have to wait for the final language till the next meeting.
We discussed that as well. And all were okay with that as long as we knew that the work was being done and it was coming forward, with extending the moratorium if we need.
And even if we didn't have the moratorium, if anybody wants to, if they were to start a business and we said, look, there's a lot of changes coming, we don't know what's gonna happen, they'd be fools.
Well, in those places, they gotta go through the planning commission.
Right.
It could be another month,
Yeah.
2 months before they can even get anywhere anyhow, so. Time is on our side slightly to get this in place before anything happens.
Right.
It might not seem like it, but it is.
well as their availability of property.
I think it's
That
a lot
goes
more
somewhere.
advantageous to move forward this way than with this is what our original recommendation was going to be.
Yeah.
And I'll reiterate that it was a fantastic evening spent getting some work done and coming to some consensus with colleagues. So I'd be fine with moving forward that way.
Do we have a motion to proceed with this?
Someone.
Support? Motion has been made and supported to continue with capping the number of licenses. We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Hill,
Yes.
Beaky,
Yes.
Marner,
Yes.
Wenzel,
Yes.
Shell,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Hoover.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'll get, we'll get a planning, or not a finance cabinet, planning set up for June and get it posted for a July 19th public hearing. Assuming we can do that, we may have to push it into a little later. We'll see exactly how we can get this all to come together.
Hopefully not.
As long as the language is in place that this is what our final end goal is going to be, I'm okay with pushing it a little while. I am not willing to go to December.
The only reason that we
I won't even be here probably in December.
The only reason we push it is if we had to get the language voted on before it went to the public hearing.
Okay.
So if we had to agree on it, like we can't vote on it in email, it has to be done.
Right, obviously.
But I believe in the past, we've done them with basically a rough draft, done the public hearing, and then have the final language come back and vote on it.
Yeah.
And I believe that's okay. So if that's the case, that's what we'll do. The best is we can get it done without breaking any laws. Or stretching them. Anything else from finance, then?
That is all we talked about for about 3 hours.
That sounds like a great
Not
meeting.
one darn thing else.
Yeah.
Good. Public safety, no meeting. DDA.
They met, they paid the bills, they are working on some of the brickwork downtown, continuation of flowers, and the pot's still looking for sponsors. A couple other projects they're working on, which may include, installation of some bike parking.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Which would be really cool, yeah. Some of the designs they're looking at and cost-wise was pretty cool. Might even be, some opportunity for 2 different types. One would be like a general U-shaped bike, which is very low profile and does not cause trouble with snow removal, and it can be taken in and out of the snow, which is pretty cool. And then others that businesses may be able to sponsor in front of their own business with their logo, so 2 different types that they're floating around with. Yeah, that's good.
Chamber of Commerce, they did meet. I was not able to make it. I guess there was a snafu with the baseball tournament and the shy try that we just voted on, but they were able to work it out. Planning Commission.
No meeting.
Airport.
Airports, they've completed, painting and fixing up their back deck. They're planning a future meeting with a group. This has been low profile. It's a group that, helps write grants for small airports. They're gonna include me for that. And it could be money for all kinds of improvements for the airports. So they can come and check it out and say, hey, this is a possible grant, you can do this, that, and the other.
Maybe get some new lights that aren't spray painted.
That's maybe get some new lights that aren't spray painting, since that is a bad topic up there. Last year,
How many moles have they removed?
moles, on the topic of moles, I was getting to that.
Oh, good.
Okay.
I spoke too soon.
That was an actual topic. I had Tom Tiedoff come to the meeting. He laid out his plan, went out, showed up, and they are planning on doing it this Friday to start it. And that plan from that man sounds, I wish I could be there to watch this happen. he laid it right out, like, this is what I do. I'm telling you, in 3 days we're gone, so. So we're gonna find out real quick. He's a man of his word. And I introduced him as the legend, so.
Are they using pellets? Are they gonna
No.
dynamite them?
No,
with 3
I
days?
dynamite him for
Watching
cool.
I'm imagining
If it works,
This is an airport.
if it works, we'll talk about it, the next meeting next month, if it, we have a meeting in June.
Is this open to the public?
If you wanna go up there, the dynamiting, if they do it, if that works, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Cause it's a simple method he says he's used for years at the airport, at the golf course, a bunch of different places, so I'm hoping it pans out. The door lock they were changing wasn't working, the door was, different, but they're gonna use the lock on the other door, cause that lock's messed up. Turns out to be the lock I signed for, so it's gonna be interesting. James sees that, so. And that is it, other than them beating me down to make sure I have Cub Scouts there for the flying, so.
Nice. When is the flying?
It's the weekend of 4th of July, so whatever that is. Saturday they have their craft show, and Sunday's the pancake breakfast. So it's the weekend before.
Okay, same one.
Yeah.
The night.
So. That is it from the airport.
Alright. Fire board?
Had 8 runs since the last meeting, 5 of them was over the weekend. Brings a total of 71 runs to date. Last week we had hose testing done. We lost 4 lengths of 4-inch and 2 of 1.5 inches, but Scott kind of questioned the testing on it because there's just little pinholes in the 4-inch. So all that is a supply line, so. But the 1.5 inches was the couplings on the 2 ends. So they're gonna retest those to see if they can still use those. Last Wednesday was a board meeting. They paid bills of over $20,000. We gave Scott permission to buy 12 new batteries for the pagers because if you leave the pagers plugged in too long, someone's finding out that these batteries are expanding inside the things, so I was one of them.
That technology is from the 90s and it hasn't been
And Scott's got them down to $27 a piece, so.
There you go.
And then we got a grant from Semiconductors through the fire department grants for a new pump for, a new grant for the fire departments. And we're buying a new pump for the Brush 20, which is your Humvee.
Nice.
That's gonna be about
If I wanna do
$4,500.
some testing, I got some brush that needs to be burned, they can come out and test it.
A little over a week ago, we assisted Owasso Township in a fire, and one of the guys that was driving the truck went to put the brakes on the corner out to, I think it was Pete Road and that, because it was all out past Ridge Road, and he went through the intersection. He got to the scene. He was gonna back up to go in line with the rest of the trucks, and the brakes failed and the truck went in the ditch. And
Fire truck?
found out that the brake drum on the wheel was broken, and we had Matt Mallory from the bus garage and a couple of our other guys changed those out, put new brakes on, and everything else is working good now. So, but there's just a little bump in the bumper of it. They had to dump all the water in the ditch. So the Mike Record had to come up and take them up, get it out. But,
Everybody was okay?
yeah, it's just the feeling that if anyone went through an intersection like 52 and 57 and the brakes failed,
Completely unsettling.
yeah.
My gosh.
But it was just the brake drum for some
Or
reason
if
it
they're
cracked.
like doing 70, trying to get there. Yeah, that could have been really bad.
This Saturday is a golf outing. Starts at 9 o'clock. Still a lot of spots to be signed up. We got a lot of good donations for door prizes.
No Humvees?
No Humvees. But we did have a lady in town here donate $1,000 to the golf outing.
Wow. Very
next board meeting is June 6th at 6 o'clock.
Task force?
Meets next week.
Public statement, any topic, although I will ask that if you have marijuana related ones, we save those for the work session. Carrie Frank Kuplas?
Well, mine was going to say for the work session, then. I
Okay.
do want to thank the board for starting work on this. We've been waiting for it a long time, so,
And you will have more later?
yeah.
Okay. Todd Troma?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Andrew Kincannon?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrew Kincannon. I'm an attorney in Saginaw Township. I work at the law firm of Smith Bogle. I've been an attorney for 28 years, 25 of them at Smith Bogle, and I'm running for the 10th Circuit Court judge position in the August primary. The Circuit Court is a court of general jurisdiction with several cases over $25,000, statutory kind of cases, criminals, generally felonies, and all manner of statutory and municipal matters, of which I've had both before municipalities and against municipalities over the last 25 years. So I think I'm uniquely positioned to do this position because I think I have the most varied experience of any candidate in the field, the most diversified experience of any candidate in the field. And so I hope over the next 11 weeks, when the primary is in 11 weeks, you can take a look at my website, kincannonforjudge.com, and or our Facebook page, Andrew Kincannon for Judge. And please note that I do look much fatter on the website than I am in person.
I was going to ask, are you old enough to have been a lawyer for 25
I am 55
years?
years old. Yeah, so when you're this fat, you don't show the wrinkles as much, I'm told. So my doctor said congratulations. I guess that's a compliment. But in any case, I hope you can consider our campaign, and I do thank you very much, Mr. President, for the time.
Thank you. Chris Mishler?
I have two things. One is the marijuana issue and one is not.
Okay.
You want me to do the one that is not?
Please.
Chris Mishler, 101 Deer Creek Drive. Thank you, the three of you, for putting in that time and bringing it to discussion, and for all of you discussing it in front of us tonight. I feel kind of lightened by this discussion, so.
I think we all three left the meeting feeling the same way. It's just long overdue. And ultimately, we came in with different things, but we left. I think all of our ideas were exactly the same. We just approached them differently.
Mm-hmm. Well done. The second thing is a problem I'm having with 215 North Chapman Street, right across from the bank. The owners, I have no idea who they are, but I'm kind of emotionally involved with this topic because my mom, I was raised in that house and only been out of that house, my mom, for about 5 years now, but it's sad. There are 3 cars, 2 in the rear parking lot, 1 behind the garage. The grass is a disaster. It's right up there in open sight for everybody in the community to see, going in and out of the bank, driving around through town. I would hope that something could be done to clean 215 North Chapman Street.
We don't have an ordinance enforcement, but we can send somebody out to take it.
I'll drive by.
Everybody just drive by.
Yeah, drive by real slow.
Check it out. They'll wonder what's going on.
Wouldn't be the first time I've done that.
Yes?
I guess I'm going to pass it right now. I may speak later depending on when this ordinance discussion gets going, I guess. But thank you for making a move, doing something. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, council member statements. Any council member have a statement to make?
I have a couple things. Some of the work we did in the infrastructure committee the last couple weeks, I think went over really well from what I heard from the DPW guys and from the feedback we got from Zach. I thought we're all pretty much on the same page. Zach, however, had mentioned something about that area where we allow the grass to grow, that him and Troy had once upon a time discussed having it like certified as like a pollinator area.
The area by the campsites?
No, that area we decided
Along
to
the
move.
riverbank.
Yeah.
Oh, the riverbank?
There was one around the riverbank.
There
And
was language I thought that he applied for that. I thought that we got that approved.
I thought
And
we
a plaque
should.
and everything.
I was just gonna say, I think that we should look into that further and, see if it's not done, see what we need to do it, and that perhaps adding some signage down there about what the purposes are, and, maybe I thought maybe we could look into some of these like bird watching type of groups, see if there's some signage we can put down there about some of the animals that have started coming into the park since we made this change that weren't there before. Just some more things to educate people as to why we're doing it, because I think that's why the DPW was getting kickback about why we weren't mowing certain areas.
There was one person that complained, one person.
Oh, there's been people that have mentioned it.
I remember when we first did it, it was a.
Yeah, it was a huge deal. I just think the more we add to communicate these things and show the positive growth, the better it will make for everybody.
And it may help to reach out to the DNR, because I know they've got.
I'm not sure with the pollinator thing, where that goes through, if that's a DNR thing, or I know nothing about it, it'll be something I'd have to ask Zach.
That's just being a good
Yeah.
comment.
Well, it transports me into
We
joint
do,
authority.
and the riparian zone
Without
isn't
even
just
trying.
up to the trail, but it goes beyond that.
Apparently there is a certification for the
Continuous stuff,
zone,
I had to
like-
join, you continue until
But I
I.
think we should look at continuing to do that with Zach and get that, like, an official thing with some signage down there.
Yeah, because Zach told us about the pollination is that it brings the bugs in and different types of birds in and everything else. It's butterflies too and all that stuff. I mean, it was really, and
those
they
of you
explained
that-
everything. It was,
Yeah, well, and for those of you that don't use the river trail, which is most of the council, it's just rampant with wildlife. I mean, birds, bees, butterflies, dragonflies, it's rampant down there. I mean, it's what it's supposed to be. It's a nature trail. And I don't honestly get any negative feedback about it, so this is all coming by surprise to me.
That would be a good research for
I said, I don't ever get any negative
Right
feedback
now,
on
it's
it. I
out
get
there.
nothing but positive
And
feedback.
if we're working in conjunction with the schools to help with the parking flow, then maybe their AP bio class can help us with some research on our nature areas.
Be cool.
Definitely. I know the ag class uses it down there for fish release and
Just
other
the
things down there
parents'
too.
fault that I have to be a 4-H. Had to join to do the survival classes, so.
Also, I don't currently have it in front of me, but at some point
Still
Mm-hmm.
we
here.
need to take a look at a list that was given to me from the DPW. We've already discussed some valves and hydrants that we know have to be replaced or repaired, but there is a list that the DPW is unsure if we are going to keep. Because,
Infrastructure or just old equipment?
like there are some hydrants that we have that the fire department can't even hook into because they're not the right size. And there's
Are they
some,
operational?
the question is whether or not we need all of them and what we wanna do with them. But,
Is it specifically referring to the hydrants? Because maybe we should get the fire chief involved. That may not be on us, also,
Right.
that may be a state standard.
well, right, I agree. Just letting you know that that's where we're standing on that. We discussed it. We, made some remarks about getting the plan in place immediately rather than letting it sit again
So
for longer.
So
are they
these are,
gonna start moving on that then? Getting the list together and.
I asked for some estimates on several things.
Okay.
So, and the last 3 times I have spoke to various people, I've been told they are forthcoming.
Well, we definitely need to get that fire hydrant thing figured out.
Right.
The way I understand it, even if we want one, we can't get one, but we can get on a list to get them.
Right.
Just like everything else.
Yeah. Well, and that's, one of the things I said was, I know that not all of these things can be fixed all at the same time, but
Right.
we already have, this is priority 1, this is priority 2, and then we have a list that's just questionable, that we need to like get with the fire department and talk to you guys and see, do we need all these, do we wanna keep all these, do we need one in a different area?
well, if some of those that are not in use right now or shut down can be
Are they
changed,
interchangeable?
right, somewhere else to the gentleman on Sharon Road that doesn't have a line, or the one that's out, you know.
North
we can-
Line.
Or North Line, yeah, sorry, you're right. If those can be interchanged and one could be moved, I mean,
If they can use them, all
Yeah.
the time. I mean, it'd be silly to throw them away or scrap them.
Some of the hydrants in town are the 1957 hydrants.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're cast iron, it's not like they're gonna wear out.
You can't get parts for them.
Right.
So we are working diligently on those things, but we are checking out the ones that we question whether or not we need, or how soon they need to have money put into them.
Okay.
Because there's a couple of areas that we really want to get done fast.
Yes, I have put priorities. This one, right?
Yesterday.
And maybe do you know if there's a way, because I don't know if fire departments can get them, or if it's really just the communities, but I know like Detroit's tearing down blocks of housing. By the block, like are they leaving the fire hydrants, or they?
Oh yeah, they'll leave the hydrants there.
Leave them?
For future development.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't mean go down to the
They might not notice.
Yeah, I meant like buy them, not steal them.
And they need the hydrants, because when I lived down there, our house blew up 2 blocks from us, so. For board game members.
But we definitely need the answers on where the money is, so we know what priorities we can do. We got one in that we really want done, right, Tina?
Things will get fixed.
Yeah. One way or another.
The team has to strap on a reflective vest and go out there and figure it out herself.
Let me know if you need them then.
I'm more of a managerial type person. I'll be standing there saying, right there, that one. Figure it out now.
Anything else?
I think that sums that up.
Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, we got an email today about one of our staff members going to be leaving us.
Yep, I saw that.
How many years has she had here?
I'd have to look it up. Quite a lot.
I think we should give her a going away party, like we did the other ones.
Yep, I agree. You wanna plan it?
Ken?
Okay. You volunteered.
Make a motion to volunteer.
Phil? You want a serious motion on that?
We did, it was already second.
Yeah.
Right, on paper now.
It's fast.
Jeannie wrote it down.
She doesn't write anything down that I say.
Anything else? All right, moving into we've got staff reports, but he's not here. Moving into work session, marijuana ordinances.
Well, he's not here, but he did provide us with this.
Oh, yeah, he's got it.
Right, it's not like he just wasn't doing
Is there anything anybody wants to talk about before we move in? I know we're all very anxious to get into this next part.
he did provide a report, it was just written, so.
I got a question on the news release.
Yeah.
It says residents, is that going to the businesses too in town?
For the survey?
Yeah.
It will only go to registered voters within the village. You have to live here to get it,
So the businesses are not.
unless they live here.
If the business owner lives here in the village, then they will get one.
I'm sure we'll hear about it. All right, moving into the marijuana ordinance work session, we will take public comment first. Attorney Frank Kuklis.
And actually, before you guys brought up all the others, but I'm still concerned, you have a moratorium in place till June 30th, but we see large expansion going on at Country Boy Farms, much expansion going on in Eden Way, it's very obvious, you can see right through their supposedly non-see-through fences. But Country Boy Farms is a huge expansion, and they didn't have that land even fenced in previously, so how did that get approved when there's more moratorium in place? I'm glad you guys are putting caps in place, I think that's a really necessary thing. But you really didn't say where you're starting, are you capping it at what it's at currently?
That's what they're gonna be figured out, basically.
Okay.
If we need a plan for expansion room, then that's what they'll do. But it'll be at least what we have now, maybe a little more.
And then how did Country Boy Farms get this huge expansion when they're under a moratorium?
We can still
Moratorium.
issue.
the moratorium is only for new business coming into town, not current licensees.
Well,
And if they already
They're
had more
currently
licenses,
licensed.
if they already had more licenses than what they were using, like they have that permit already, but they weren't like if they had a permit for 100, but they only did 85,
so
they can still use up to their, whatever their licenses are.
I believe when the committee researched this previously, the moratorium has continually been expanded since then. There was no that quantity of licensing out there at Country Boy Farms at that point. So somewhere along the line, something got snuck in. Every time they get approved, they get a little bit more.
The moratorium, we've repeated this almost every time we've discussed the moratorium. The moratorium is strictly for new licensees wanting to seek out a facility in town. It does not pertain to the current licensees already growing in town.
Is that
But,
right?
so then, them expanding, if they go from 100,000 to 500,000 plants, that's okay, because they're not a new business.
Correct.
Okay. That's sort of weird, but okay, I understand what you're saying.
They're grandfathered in naturally, partially by law, I believe. There's legal
Yeah, if we said no more,
yeah, I mean,
But they're taking in new lands too. They're not even on their same footprint.
right, but they're current licensees in town. Because they're currently licensed.
So then they could actually go out to the fairgrounds, which were originally proposed a year ago or whatever.
If a current,
And as a current license holder, they could put in a whole new development out there.
No, they
That
can
would have
only
to
use
be approved
license
through the planning
for
commission.
They can
Their
only use
current
their license
facilities.
for their facility. They're not licensed at any other facility.
their property line butts up, their current property line butted up to the property line that they were expanding on. So they were allowed to expand. They cannot pick up their property and choose to start another business on another road because their property lines do not touch.
So where they picked up this expansion, it's still under the, same zoning as, Eden Way and the original Country Boys Farm?
Yeah.
So how far does that zone go?
we don't actually have that zone.
Right, I mean,
That's gonna be one of the, things.
Okay, so it's sort of contradictory what you're doing there then.
My only comment is, it was
I
bad
don't think
last
you
year,
fully
it's going to get
followed.
worse
Yeah.
this year, that's all.
I mean, you've expanded outdoor grow again by leaps and bounds, and you already had an odor issue that wasn't resolved. So we're glad to see you working on it. We're not saying anything wrong with that. That's great. But we need to really, really address that. Every time you increase outdoor grow, you increase outdoor odor. And truthfully, the indoor grows are a problem too. We came through town tonight, and the odor is horrible coming from Highland.
Anything else?
That's it, and thank you, seriously, I know we sound upset, we are, but we also appreciate what you're doing.
Rod Toma?
I just want to say thank you for working on it too. I wanted to give you guys a clap, but I thought it was
we
But
were
thank
done.
you.
I'm good now.
There you go.
Exactly.
Chris Mishler?
Last Friday, the high school was was host to a 17 community track meet. I mean, it was huge. People were parked all over the place. Unfortunately, the wind was blowing from east to west, which meant the odor was horrendous. And I was so embarrassed that all these people are coming into our beautiful town and their kids are out there running and breathing in, breathing in that smell. And so I'm encouraging you to get something on the books and get it taken care of. It's not a healthy situation, and I know you've heard it before, but I just have to say how disturbing it was that know that all these people, I mean, we're talking hundreds of people from out of town. And, if the wind would have been going the other direction, it wouldn't have been bad at all, but it was coming right at them full blast.
I can concur with that. I have at least 2 different emails from 2 superintendents, just because of the nature of being on council and then being my own superintendent included, which was a little awkward. So I had to remind him that my 2 roles are separate, and it's interesting to look at 8th grade students who were at that track meet, all of whom know that I sit on this council because they're 8th graders. They don't do their homework, but they will research you online. And it was, it's awkward. And I'll also reiterate, I don't think it's a secret where my house is, and I understand there is a personal grow close to my home. The odor coming from High Life is pretty intense. I understand we are delayed yet again on a cannibuster.
Not cannibuster.
Unicorn, what would you like?
Cannibuster is the odor control.
Okay.
It's the odor sensor.
Well, again, here we go. But their change of leadership was within family, I understand. They've got to be held accountable for that.
Do we know if anything's changed then, that the odor has increased significantly in the last 2-3 months maybe?
Can't think of anything specific, but.
When was the last time anybody stewarded and took note of anything that's different or changed or investigated or do we have, yeah.
How many
I think
they made to Tom?
Yeah, I sent Tommy last week. Yeah.
I just feel like it's been a little more prevalent than what it has been in the past.
Yeah, I sent him last week. So I told him it was bad in specific space.
And we should be able to go back to those reports and his notes on that, right? So we have a process.
Better be able to, because he called me and said he was there and he found the odor. I said, then walk in the building and fix this up.
Okay.
Oh, and on the topic of sports, I reached out to someone, Park Queen, and they're gonna go down there and, get their hands on that, blocking sled and get it out of the park.
Good.
It's currently being overgrown by, some trees or weeds or something. I saw it. So, someone's coming to get it eventually here.
Can we reverse a little bit back to council statement, because Keith just reminded me of something that I was already thinking about before I came in and then I forgot. The surrounding area around the playscape, I brought it to James' attention 2, possibly 3 times. The final detail is terrible. They do not have the grade proper, they do not have any grass growing, it's got holes, it's got huge rocks, it's got huge stones. It's dry enough now, somebody needs to come in and get it graded and get final grade, fix all of the holes, fix the clay, the chunks of clay that are laying on top, the cement blocks that are laying on top. We have this beautiful playscape that people want to use, however, it's treacherous around the outside edges, and I realize that it's been incredibly wet, so it's been difficult to get in there. They did a partial job in the fall, and it was awful. And I was promised by James that that was not the final grade, and somebody will be coming back. However, it needs to be done yesterday, because it's dangerous out there.
Alright, I'll put that in the email too.
Not compliant with accessibility that way. There's no way to get a wheelchair up and over into some of the sections. And part of, I know, my horn was to make sure that it's accessible to all of us.
In our meetings that we had over that park, it was supposed to be, and there's a lot of implements missing that should have been there.
Yes.
That were originally supposed to be there. Somewhere along the way, their original plan either changed or was not shared with me.
Yes.
It was, I think, changed because some of the implements that they were looking for were not available at the time, but I do not remember being included on that final design practice. And I feel like towards the end of the year, because we had questioned it so many times, it just kind of got thrown in to shut us up, and there it is. Shut up. I kind of feel like that's what happened. And nobody's really taken a second look at it except for me, because I have to stare at it every day in my backyard.
Alright, I'll reach out to depending on
Thanks.
Chris, I'm sorry, were you done?
Sorry, Chris.
You incited a riot.
Well, when you mentioned the park and the slide, it reminded me that I was just over there. They had a preschool graduation party underneath the pavilion tonight. And there was kids everywhere, and I'm just like, why is it still like this? So we need to fix it.
She, that shrieks.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
She probably thought she had to sign that.
Yeah. Alright, yes?
Everything that I was going to say has already been said. I know we've talked about the odor, but just to speak about, it has been worse. And just from where I live, every time the humidity rises, then the odor gets worse. The day after the rain, it gets worse, and it always is worse on Saturdays and Sundays. I don't know if that's when they're releasing something into the air, but anyway, thank you again for addressing it, and your conversation. I know when you left that meeting, I know you probably had to have felt just good about discussing it and making some headway. So I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
We should look into who is at the facilities on Saturdays and Sundays, because I don't believe they work a crew on Saturdays and Sundays.
I think does.
Do they?
I think they work, well, it depends.
I don't
Depends what they got going.
Sometimes they work
Sometimes.
7 days a week, like 12.
Other times they don't.
They might even work 2 shifts, I think, on some days.
I think they do work multiple
2 or
shifts.
3 shifts.
And I guess maybe I'm driving by the front, and I forget that they all park in back now, so maybe there is people there, and I just don't recognize it because I'm not seeing the cars out front. I'm sure that the people from up front, the offices are probably not there on the weekends, but the employees are. I'm just curious if something's happening over the weekend that they're missing because there's maybe not people there, but.
Management's away, staff will play.
Well, not necessarily that, but just, if something
Somebody
faults
has
out and they
something
aren't able to
properly, or
maybe one of the HVAC faults out, they're not able to reset it because nobody's there. Just given that, yes, if it's worse, she's noticed that it's worse on the weekend, so I'm wondering what's different on the weekend
Especially
than
recently,
during the week.
the last couple
Maybe we
weeks.
should check.
Alright, do you want to, give your
Can
presentation?
we have Tommy add to staff reports?
Yeah.
That would be helpful. I'm curious how many we're getting in a week.
I did the one.
Yeah, I did the one.
I haven't seen it since.
What the result is of whatever investigation takes place.
Probably be monthly, not. Same with police chief.
In an effort to keep things as transparent as possible.
Yep. Well,
Yeah. Into the fire we go. So, one of the things I looked at, it was a proposed addition to our ordinance as far as it concerns micro businesses. I would suggest that we add wording that we say no, or as in 0 is our number as far as micro businesses until a later date, that we can do more due diligence into this type of small business. For those that don't know, a Michigan micro business license allows the holder to grow up to 150 plants, process them on site into a variety of cannabis extracts and edibles, and sell those products directly to the consumer. This means that a micro business license allows a Michigan residents to run a fully vertically integrated adult use facility. And there are some limits to what they can do. However, the biggest limit is to who can be a licensee. You can't, if I was involved in a business like this, put it simply, and I'm going to pick on Chris because she's looking at me. If she decided to get into business and wanted me to help her and get involved, I couldn't do that. So one person can own one business, that's it. You can't be involved in multiple businesses. But why I want this to say 0 is changes in the horizon. And actually changes that happened March of this year. They now have a Class A micro business. Just found this. Which allows a licensee to grow up to 300 plants, not 150. And this license, you can purchase your marijuana concentrate and infused products from a different processor. Because the Class A license, under the updated recent rules, they can no longer process in the property. So if you have a Class A micro business, you can grow and you can sell products, but you can't process. So it allows you to grow 300 plants, but they take away your processing rights. So you're still allowed to have a storefront. The other thing is primary caregivers that decide to get into the micro businesses are allowed a one-time transfer of their plants once their license is issued. So caregivers, the at-home guys that are growing, they can grow 60 plants
per patient.
12 plants per patient. They can have 5 patients.
Okay.
They can have 72 plants if they're a patient themselves. So this individual can have 72 plants in their place of residence. Now, if they want to stop that and go into the micro business, they can do a one-time transfer, probably just the 60 plants, because you're no longer or whatever. So that's like a starter kit to get to the 150, 300, whatever they choose. So caregivers, they could be anywhere that decide to get in this. This is a little thing for them. So as, like I explained, at this time, an individual can only be invested in one of these businesses at a time. You can't have more than one of these businesses. Although our current ordinance has language in it about micro businesses, it doesn't have anything identifying that says how many or what. But I think the reason, and then we should, I say, revisit this maybe in a year, wait to see what happens, is due to the fact that the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act states that after January 1st of 2023, the Cannabis Regulatory Agency probably is going to announce a rule authorizing individuals to hold ownership interest in more than one microbusiness. So now you can be invested in a bunch starting in 2023. I also would want time to look into if these types of businesses would be in conflict with our current ordinance of allowing only 2 storefronts, as these types of businesses are self-contained but include a store. And they can't sell their products, leftover stuff to anybody. So, but is that the reason we didn't list anything? Because technically,
I don't think those were fully flushed out when we made.
right, because they came into effect in 2018 with adult recreational use was passed.
So, are they using their home as a storefront?
No, it's gotta be a separate place. Can't use it at your house. So, because you're growing 150 plants, you're not growing 150 plants. Unless you're a really good dealer, you're not growing 150 plants at your place. Or 300. So it's for these reasons and the fact that too many changes are happening too quickly that I would propose that this become a no or listed as a 0 until further information can be attained and understood in the future with more changes possibly coming.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah,
we already have in place that we will only allow 2 storefronts. Maybe we can change the wording as to 2 storefronts or micro businesses. So say if one of these goes out and we have somebody interested in one of these businesses, but I still don't want there to be any more than 2 places that they can purchase anything.
The storefront in a micro business is to sell the stuff.
That's
So
what I'm saying, like if one of these went out and then somebody wanted to put in a micro business, but that way you still only have 2 storefront type of situations where you can purchase.
again, my proposal is to say no for a year until we know what's actually going on.
Okay.
So I don't care if one of these guys goes out of business. Because that's one, someone wants to come and put a store back in there, that's fine and dandy because we allow 2. But we need to, even if in a year we decide we don't want any part of anybody having a micro business. That's a year away. And also considering changes that are going to come in 2023 allows us time to actually see what they're doing, what the changes are. And
Well, does this even come into play if we put a cap?
Well, I was just gonna say, if we put the review that he's suggesting in the same cycle as the review of the cap, then it kind of keeps everything.
it actually doesn't, because this is a separate entity. The cap is in place. They can't have more than 150 plants. They can't have more than 300. Depending on you have a regular micro business or a Class A micro business. So they can't get more. They can't ask for more. If you apply to have a micro business, you can grow 150 plants. That's it. We put a cap on licenses like that, Class A, Class B, that's different, because it's 100,
Right, but
1,000.
Don't these guys, they will still need to be licensed through the village, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And if we're not allowing any new businesses to come in and be licensed, then it shouldn't, I agree with doing the ordinance, but it shouldn't even come into play, because we're not going to be allowing new businesses into the village based on the fact that we're capping, and the only people that we are allowing any licenses in the future would be for the current grows temporarily until they can figure out exactly how far they're going to expand their current projects.
But it's still something we're revisiting. So why not just say no to micro business?
And this isn't like a good example on how we're gonna do this process, so it's basically codifying what we already are doing in practice.
think it was wise on Keith's part too, that it seems like the micro businesses might kind of have their own set of rules. And so where initially it looks like maybe the cap might, like the micro businesses might, but I think a separate ordinance like what he's proposing is probably wise with a review on a yearly basis until we see what they do with upcoming laws.
We just say no in another year if we still don't like it.
Right. So I guess my question is if are these micro businesses still licensed through the village, or do they not?
Yeah, they would have to be.
Okay, because since caregivers are currently not, based on state law, they don't have to be, so I wasn't sure. That's why they could transfer their business over to a micro business, and then there's some.
That's why I say
There's some
you say
gray
no to
area there?
this,
Yeah.
so a caregiver can't say, hey, I'm allowed to do this.
Yeah.
Again, they're only gonna be able to transfer 60 plans.
Yep.
But they can be licensed to
But
one.
if there's a loophole in there through the state, then we could, okay, I understand, for
Well,
sure.
and I honestly don't think they could do it because of the way we have our ordinances, although they're not specific to the micro business, but
Right.
you're not allowed to grow it in the downtown area.
Right.
But you can't, it's weird. It's a weird way it works.
Yes, but I would rather we just say no to
Right.
this. So we don't have to worry about anybody trying. I'm like, there's still people asking to come for smoking rooms.
Even though we put
And we said no a long time ago, and we're never gonna say yes. So, but they still ask. So, quite honestly, I felt this would be an easier thing out of the gate to see how we look and react. Yes, you can't print that, but if you look at the bottom, that's the link that shows all the current rules that I used and read it from, so I didn't just make it up.
So this can additionally be checked for working with legal and also sent planning.
Yeah.
Right.
We probably don't need to do the finance and admin because there is no financial impact.
Right, because the only thing in our ordinance is it defines a micro business. That's it. That's all we have written. Because that's actually how it's written in other ordinances, but certain places had a number of micro businesses. But also they have the wording that says, you can't have more than one, because that's the way it is now. That's changing in January. So I thought, well, let's get on this one now and be like, nope.
But this could be sent with the other agreement that we discussed with planning on this.
Right, and this would be an easier one, trying to find those numbers, because this is specific license. You can only have 150 or you can have 300. Right? There's no gray area, that's it. You can't ask for more because you have one micro business. You're stuck with 150 plans. But in January, you can have 2 businesses, 3 businesses, or one with 150, one with 300.
It's odd that they took process, because the whole point of it was to be like a microbrew.
Yes,
Well,
like a
everything is in
microbrewery,
one-
everything is in one building,
Right.
and this just recently happened.
Yeah.
They just discussed it, and it was sent out in March of this year to create the Class A micro business. And they took away the processing part. You can still grow, you gotta send your stuff to be processed, and then you can buy stuff you need for your storefront. Alright?
So it's no different, it's
yes.
ridiculous.
That doesn't make any sense though.
No,
Like it
but it
totally
allows-
takes away the.
But it allows you, as a small business owner, to now have 300 plans.
Yeah. It kind of contradicts the whole purpose of what the micro business was for.
Right,
So.
and when you read a lot of Michigan rules, you find out that this state and whoever put it together, there's a lot of gray area and it's lackadaisical.
That's the way most laws.
Like, this state and Alaska are the only ones that allow the amount of home grow you can grow. Nobody else is even close. This is the only state in the Midwest that allows you to grow 12 plants. All the other places that allow the adult use is 6 plants. Alaska and Michigan, the only one that allow 12. But Alaska, there has to be 2 21-year-olds in the house. There only has to be 1 in the state of Michigan. So the state of Michigan has allowed the easiest rules for you to grow marijuana. It basically comes down to the municipalities to tighten some of those rules. So far, because there's only so much you can overwrite a state rule. learned that with the drones.
I'll promise you there was more than 12 growing on the prairie farm a long time ago, well before I knew it.
I lived in Albany, guarantee that
Is
too.
that why everybody's going to the dikes out there?
Yeah. Those were tigers.
You
I was
stop
gonna
at,
say, I've been to plenty of
you
parties.
stop at that Dollar General in Albany right now, whew, there is a vegetative odor that surrounds that Dollar General. So that's what I have.
Would you like to make a motion?
Good work.
I will make a motion that we move forward with this proposed addition to the ordinance.
Support.
Motion has been made and supported to continue the process for the setting micro businesses to zero. We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Hewitt,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Marner,
Yes.
Renzo,
Yes.
Hoover,
Yes.
Chanel,
Yes.
Powell.
Just real quick, I wanna confirm that we're saying that we revisit that in a year, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just, yeah.
Yes. The answer is yes.
We're waiting to get through the new
Yes.
rules at the beginning of the year. So it's May,
Right.
we go to the next May or the beginning of June.
Then we could even do it before, it's just
Right.
setting it, once it's codified, it's set it when we're doing it.
I'm just in my head trying to figure out when we have to come back and look at all these things again.
Always.
I think that it should,
As a
Right.
general director.
And hang on to you birds with
as a council member, I think, very similar to how we're handling the situation now. I think in a year, when it's time to revisit, everybody picks the top 5 things that they would like to relook at, and vote in the same manner that we would be voting on whether or not we take these to write new ordinances or not. You know, if there's areas that people don't feel that need to be revisited, then we don't have to revisit in the ordinances.
I'd like to do that with some of our other ordinances too.
I just think it's a good practice to get into. Some of our ordinances are so absolutely outdated that I'm not even sure why they're there anymore, because they're not being enforced, or they don't really outline anything. I know that we have a lot of ordinances, but I think it's a great idea to even beyond cannabis, to make it a practice that we try to address X a number of ordinances a year.
I agree. I've got one in particular that bugs me a lot, so maybe we'll bring that up. Not even personal. All right, anybody else have anything?
I agree, okay, this question about how we're getting this process live. So obviously I haven't sent you anything yet talking about things that I'm thinking about involving marijuana in the ordinances. So we're gonna do these, like, we're gonna group these up like a couple each time, or we're gonna do this just again next meeting?
We'll do it, hopefully everybody gets me everything by the end of May. It would, if we have 100 of them, we're not gonna do them all in one night, because you'll be tired and angry and just, nobody will pay attention. So we'll group them up into like issues and then go through them. If there's a lot, I'm assuming odor is gonna be the biggest one, so we'll probably have to break that up over a couple nights. We'll go through the process, vote, yes, we're gonna make these go down the road. Next step will be, send it to the planning commission with a general idea, this is what we're thinking, what are your thoughts, and for a finance admin, and then start putting some solid language around it.
Let me help you.
Do I get to request being removed from committees? Realize I've stuck on all 3 of these, right?
This was a simple one in my opinion.
No, I agree, I'm just
Matt-
thinking about how many of these things we need to talk about and how long we're going to.
Matt already has my next one,
Discussions, yeah.
which we both know I'm gonna create a whole lot of enemies.
Yeah.
Real quick, there's not gonna be one single soul that lives on that side of this village that's gonna like me. It's not gonna go over well, I know it's not, but I don't, we're in a village council meeting, I don't care, instead of the words I wanna use.
We have to have a discussion about all of them, so it's okay.
Well, we have a discussion, my next one is gonna probably be a lot longer, because there's a lot more detail to it, but like I said, there's gonna be a lot of angry business owners, specifically in Eatonly and Meisner. Sorry, changes need to be made. And I search a bunch, if anybody's wondering, I did go to Audrey. I have information, we don't need to go there, it's group. It was very simple.
Yeah, you wanna tell them, just might as well put it out there so everybody knows.
They have, there is over 40 acres of cannabis that grows with this business. And I talked to the two top dogs out there, and one of them has multiple businesses through the state. And they just happened upon this one that had a solid wall barrier, because it was a farm, a personal farm, not bought, it was just a farm. They used the solid wall as a way to keep animals out of there, instead of building different kind of fence. So what they did is they continued the process with the solid wall all the way around. Okay? As in one of the issues we're gonna have with someone in Eatonly, because they're not really using their fence the way they're supposed to. This group, because they're out in the woods, technically they're literally in the woods. They built the wall all the way around the property. So they have one section is 37 point whatever acres, and it's totally encompassed. It looks like cornfields from the aerial view. It's not corn, but, so this is the amount of marijuana they're growing, and the second one has a bunch too. But it is a solid wall all the way around.
It's gotta be better than the shade cloth they're using on the corner.
Right, so what it has,
I think it's actual fencing, I think it's shade cloth.
it's probably up this much at the base, but that was to create airflow through the previous farm. And they continued that all the way around. And like I sat and talked to these guys for like an hour and a half before I went and fixed my camera, turkey hunting. Cause I'm 1,000 yards just north of these guys. And like I said, when the wind blows, I don't smell anything. And it comes through trees and everything else. But the only time you would get an odor is when you drive right in front of them. And it's a huge facility, just 40 acres of just pop. Okay? That's more than what's going on in Eatonly for anybody that's wondering. Because that's broken up out there. This is literally rows and rows and rows. Their wall is, I would have to say, between 9 and 10 feet. It's not the little 8-foot minimum that state says. It's easily probably 10 feet. So they can grow 7, 8-foot plants in there, and you'll never know. But again, we came to the conclusion that we think the solid barrier is helping.
Well, it sends it up.
Because it's gonna get, and it's gonna, and it allows for circulation.
Yeah.
Which doesn't
But
create.
the odor is not usually on the ground.
Right,
It's gonna be up
but
on top of
it hits the solid wall, and it goes up, and that's gonna disperse once it gets up in the air, especially with the fence that high. Yes, that's in part of my presentation in a couple weeks, so, just for anybody that's wondering.
It's an interesting concept.
No spoilers. I'm sorry. It's the other part that everybody's gonna be mad about. Yeah, so if you wanna come and listen to that stuff, in 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, it's gonna be awesome.
I think we have an audience.
In 3 weeks, it's gonna be pretty good. That's a part of the spoiler. Oh, and he didn't come to the airplane meeting again. I didn't say that. And I didn't. Hey, I'm going to say, I didn't start the jokes. I just piled on.
I have no doubt, considering that she put my name on the agenda too.
Yes, she did. She included.
I know. Hey, Devin came to me and said that Dave still has not put up that fire streets.
There's been some complaints about very loud, belligerent music being played on that property too. But I don't know how you can, we don't have a sound ordinance. So, yeah, sound, what would we do?
We don't have sound one. That's a problem.
But I recognized that the other day too. Yeah. Still not up. And I complained about that last year too.
See, he didn't tell me he was annoyed, but he had just mentioned or asked about the screening, and I said, that's not up, he goes, no. No, I was supposed to.
Troy said I'd take care of it, that was, you were there.
Well, yeah, and then I heard something about the fence was on back order.
I don't even know if they're actually using suspension.
Well, but we got to start fencing and put that up in a week, how can, is that, I mean, to your point, it's not special.
No, it seems like it's just shade cloth. I mean, you can see through it. Now, what I would prefer we force everybody until we do something else. I drove by, whoever's growing at Bo's property out there at the old Carly's property, and you can't see through his fence at all. Like,
That
you
one
can't
is
see
tough to see through.
anything in
You can, but not like this.
Well, I drove through here, let's see, where did I came today, I drove by there. And you can see them right in there, you can see every pot, you can see every worker, you can see everything. It's like, why is it even there? So they either need to put a double mirror up, or they need to change it.
Well, another
Because you
issue
can
is
see right through
they
it.
don't have anything inside. Right. They have something up that's completely see-through. And the state law here is, you can see through it. Doesn't matter how far you're away, if you can see through it without using binoculars,
You don't have to. You can drive in the road and see it.
you gotta change it. So I'm not sure. I know who's back there. Maybe someone needs to go back and be like, here's the deal. Gotta fix it. Can't have it.
That's what we have Tommy for, right?
Right on Main Street like that.
That's what we have Tommy for.
Yep.
And so at what point do we have some sort of fine structure in place?
I think it's I think it's already in place, isn't it?
Is it being enforced and collected?
No. We'll get them out there. So I just noticed that when I was doing driving.
It makes no sense if we have those things in place not to enforce them from all of them, because then again, we've got the businesses running the town.
Right.
Instead of the government. And are all these complaints about this same group?
No, the group on the front group is different than Dave's group, which is Dave's in the very, very back, which he is the one, his group does not have.
Is that TriMet in the back?
I think it is. I don't know what their names are.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's nice and neat.
Is that all that's there?
No, and then everybody,
Oh, yeah.
and then the ones in
between. The one on the frontage, right on Main Street, at the entry of Eden Way, I don't know who owns that or what they're doing, but their fence, you can see through that one, and you can also, I think you can see through Dave's, does Dave own that property at the very front, right on the corner of Loafer and Main Street?
I think so.
I'm not sure who owns that one.
I thought that was a different company.
You can see through that one, I was watching them, work there, I just drove by and just watched them all work, I was like, yikes. So, they need to put at least a second layer of fence up on that front road.
Well, that where we come up with a permanent change and say, do this.
Yeah, but temporarily, I don't wanna,
Right.
still cover it up temporarily until that permanent change comes through. And that change isn't gonna be immediate nonetheless, so it still needs to be resolved with maybe a second layer of fencing so that you can't visually see in there as easily.
Dave committed to fence it or covering it up 6 months ago. And it's still just not done.
Why would we do that if we're not enforcing or sending out ordinance officer or reflecting the fine station?
Just so you know, the fine is $500.
Right, how many times can we do that? Once?
Can we raise it like a 10,000?
No.
Yeah.
It's 500.
Yeah, I know.
That's state set.
There are other things. You have more than just talking. Yeah,
I thought it was a daily fine.
I mean, maybe, but
That's what I thought
you
too.
know how much it costs.
500.
I thought that's what we agreed, I thought that's what we figured out too.
Maybe we can, but we would also have to court, just like, $10,000.
Or maybe after so many fines or so many complaints, we don't issue.
So this would be an instance where we would review and we would say,
$500.
It makes no sense to make rules and regulations and set a fine structure if we're not going to use them, and you said this is ridiculous.
I agree.
And that needs to be built into our licensing process.
Well, and these are the things that we review every year before we renew their license. Another thing,
It has to be done with fidelity, or else, why would I piss the time? Take me talking about I'm gonna take away the keys and shit, and clean my room. I don't wanna take the keys, why clean it?
So, by the way, in the rule structure, like the states reduced the, I don't think we reduced the licensing fees. We're not reducing. No, we don't have. State is switching how much it is. I don't know.
Sure.
Yes, the marijuana because it's part of their property. But are you guys gonna address the aesthetics out there? Because, I mean, it's an unmowed piece of land. The front the properties are terribly maintained.
Yeah, you don't wanna come back to 3 weeks.
Hence my berm idea that I talked about last year. Is he stealing my idea? I can't even put anything in because you steal them all when I.
Trust me, this is even more in depth than that.
How many of us
You
are working
take
on
all
the
my
same kind of
ideas.
idea?
You wanna see it?
Are you still gonna put all of those and then try to
Yeah,
lump
show you
them
what I did.
So,
together?
you don't have to give me like the full on, down to the, like, T breakdown, just give me.
Do you not know him?
I was gonna
Come
say.
on.
You know, like, cram it, just like a rough idea, I don't need all, you can be as detailed as
You
you
would
want.
like the Crib Notes version?
Yeah.
Talk my language,
The
alright.
Cliff Notes version. And
Alright.
then, because then when it's time for you to present, then you can come with the detail.
Can I ask a
It just
question?
seems, I wanna make sure we're using our
One sec,
time.
Rod.
I just wanna make sure we're using our time as best we can.
Right.
So if he's proposing something like that, and I know that's coming, maybe my efforts are better spent in a different area, because I don't wanna do the same task twice.
Right.
When we have so much to cover.
There is a chance that your idea may be different than his, but if you guys want, I'm not opposed to right now, if you wanna spitball some ideas, like, hey, I'm thinking about working on this, anybody wanna work on it as a team, go for it.
I just, rather than her putting forth an idea, me putting forth an idea, him putting forth an idea, and they're all pretty similar, it makes sense to me, maybe kind of do that and categorize things so that we can utilize time as best we can.
I'm also hoping to set up, and I have to find the time, so maybe this weekend after the fire golf tournament, we'll see. A Google read-only sheet that you guys send me the ideas, I'll put it in the sheet and it'll be shared for the board. Read-only, can't comment, can't add.
But you can see where.
You can see where it's at,
Yeah.
and then if you
What
wanted to
people are
talk to
offering.
them about the idea, maybe expand on it, you can form
That
it.
makes sense.
I figured
I'm
it
gonna
was.
assign everybody lab partners, and you have to come back.
Well, even Kim, the things we talked
Choose
about,
my own one.
No,
the things we talked about, there's 2 or 3 of those things that need to be presented separately. So, I'm not,
and I would.
I was already working on one thing
If we have
before.
an opportunity to talk about that, then you work on that part of it, I can work on another part of it, she can work on something else, he can work on something else, rather than knocking on the same door time.
Danielle can be my lab partner.
I thought that's what we were doing in 3 weeks when we come back. We're gonna compile the groups
Yeah.
and say, you
Well,
and I come
hopefully
up with
you
the
get
same thing and then
But I'm hoping to get it out there before, so somebody sees it.
in 3 weeks you'll assign the homework.
But I would definitely recommend, taking small chunks, like, for example, the cap, like, that's a good one, but don't throw in something like, oh, and the odor thing is part of it. Like, this isn't a bill in Congress, let's break it up into little things that make sense together, not, you know.
Oh, you're not gonna try to slide things under the table?
Yeah,
No
let's
pet
not do that.
projects is a part of the budget.
You're not gonna,
Correct.
like, fund putting a new fountain in at the park
Everybody
or
gets their
something wrong
shoes,
with it?
yeah, no.
Yes,
As
this
long
is
as you
another.
get the thing.
Yeah.
Rob,
Yeah, Rob,
You see that you're gonna present like things for barriers and may up in the next meeting. Is there anything that they can say that they've been grandfathered in that they don't have to? Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, I know everything else, like some things have been grandfathered
We
in, so I
might,
didn't
we
know.
might have to like say, you have, we'll probably have to give them an amount of time
Right.
to.
Yeah, I understand
whole-
that, okay,
But
okay.
But no, what I'm gonna propose without giving you any more stuff.
You don't have to do, you don't have to do that.
There's gonna be a time limit.
Okay.
Because what's gonna be listed is gonna take time, unfortunately. But they are, I'm gonna give away half this, but it's gonna save me from talking. You're gonna have to show progress, like on any of these things are proposed. So, as a cap limit, all right, we limit it, hey, you have this amount of time to let us know what you're gonna need. It's the same thing. There's gonna have to be time limits
Well,
for
that's
many
what
of these things.
I'm just saying, if you're making changes for like the barriers and stuff
Right.
like that, they're gonna, well, they say come back, well, it was in the ordinance before, so can we be grandfathered in or something?
Well,
That's what I'm asking, you know.
They can ask.
yeah, you can ask,
Okay.
And they can even take us to court.
the answer could be no.
Yeah.
and I'd like to point out one more thing. And I don't know what was going on at all, because I just happened to go by and I seen it. The bottoms of the covers on the supposed fence, raised all along the roadway on, Bulkmer for a good few hours that I think, 'cause I had left town, come back, and it was still like that. And it was raised, you could see right under there, people could have crawled right under there. It was something weird going on there, right, on the opposite side of the berm, kind of east.
Were they moving any dirt under there from a dirt pile or?
I've noticed the dirt pile looks reduced, so.
I'm like, that's the only thing I would suggest, that was a shortcut,
Last
get
winter.
dirt, so.
The dirt pile got reduced last winter, somebody was in there taking dirt off that pile. But it was really strange looking.
Well, we don't know what they do in there and what they need to do. I don't know if I would consider it strange, but it's something to do with the efforts that they were working on.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, never mind, wait, Yasmin, sorry.
Yes,
No,
I got one more thing I forgot on the fire department. I told Matt about this. The Board of Commissioners, Saginaw County got $57 million for the ARP fund, for the American Relief Act. They said that on April 1st there was new attachments to it, and it said no fire department was supposed to have money given to them. But Gratiot County gave out over $450,000 to their fire departments. And what we got from Saginaw County Commissioners, and I've been after them to give me a list of what they're doing their money on, is thank you for protecting and serving our community. I have heard from several of those serving about the issues facing our local departments. 6 Saginaw County fire departments have applied for the ARP grant from the county to update, modernize their equipment and turnout gear. Unfortunately, per federal guidelines, fire departments are not eligible for these funds. However, several commissioners have included myself. It is necessary to support the fire departments. Therefore, there is some funds available. They didn't say where it's coming from that we might get, so we will know after the 19th sometime if we're going to get any money for the fire departments.
No, they're gonna tear down the old Saginaw Fair.
Yeah, they're going to use all this money for different things. It's just like the fire department's.
Everybody's getting bonuses.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So if you guys can contact the commissioners, Kyle Harris was one of them said that they wasn't going to give any money at all. So I sent Mr. Harris a nice email today, and I sent Christopher Boyd, which is the chairman of the board, an email and said I want a copy of where the money's going. So until then, we don't know if we're going to get any money or not.
You can adjourn.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll ask next time.
She's gonna come Motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made and supported to adjourn. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Again, thank you all.
Oh no, here we go.